Hello everyone and welcome back to another update. A lot of work has been done in this update. Everything from building a new level to taking feedback from some of the early testers about the game and allowing you, the viewers, to try the game out before it's officially released. Let's get into it. Hello guys, I hope you're having a great day. Let's start this update with some of the smaller changes first. I wanted to change how some of the enemies behaved, and I started out with the bats. The idea was to have them hanging idly in the ceiling and then switch to attack the player when there was a line of sight. To begin, I started to add another model for the bat in the sprite atlas. Since that type of sprite was not by default with the atlas, I had to draw it myself, but it didn't take too long. Even I could do it and make it look pretty good. And once that was in place, I could start working out the behavior in the code. I expected a little more work to be needed, but all I had to do was to add the idle state for the bat and set it as an initial state. This time I had code that was already written in case I wanted to add more behaviors. That saved a lot of time compared to how it usually is. After that, I go into the editor to try to find a position where it looks good enough. And once all that was done, I now got a bat hanging in the ceiling, waiting for the player to come along. I also spent some time improving the skeleton and made him a bit more aggressive. There was also some issues where the skeleton not seeing the player, even though the player was right in front of the skeleton. So the skeleton can now see the player sooner, and he also, once he sees the player, he picks up some speed and charges the player. As well as that, I also removed a few sprite ticks to make the attack come faster than before. This makes it slightly harder, but the attack speed before was way too slow. On the left side you can see how it was before the change, and on the right side after the change. It's currently only the initial attack that is faster. I might make every attack faster, but for now I'm just sticking with the first attack. I let a couple of my friends try out the game on their own phones, and I got some good feedback. One of these feedbacks were about the bats not being able to be killed when they attacked you from above. The way the hitbox for the attack is designed, it is designed to kill just in front of the player and not above the player. So I spent some time adding a second hitbox to be able to kill the bats above the player if necessary. However, I'm not sure I will stick with this one. This is something I can easily switch on and off later, of course, but for now it's nice to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And I can easily change it later. Another comment I got from a few was that the chest was unable to be opened. Turns out that the hitbox was not even there, and how the collision is checked was at fault. Some quick fixes, such as adding a hitbox to the chest and changing some code, made it all work as it should. Before, it just checked the distance from the center of the chest to the center of the weapon hitbox. That type of check only works if both hitboxes are made out of circles. One interesting requested feature was something that never crossed my mind: to have the option to mirror the positions of the UI buttons. The buttons that's left and right, and jump and attack, and switch the sides if you want to. This is why it's good to have different people try the game out and give feedback. I think it's a good idea to implement and won't take too long to do. First, I needed to set 2 different positions for each of the controls. I could have just switched the buttons' positions with each other, but that made it look weird, and I might change some values later, so 2 different positions for each was the way to go. After that, I tried them out by manually changing the view by setting the position in the code, just to see how it works and acts. Once that was in place and worked as intended, I needed to add the option in the menu about how the player preferred. And the quickest and easiest way I thought of was to use the same screenshot I used for the transparency values. I separated the buttons from the screenshot and made 2 copies out of them. One with the default view, the other with the controls switched. Then all that was left to add was to add those 2 new images into the game and use them accordingly. Add some code and a button that toggles between the 2. And now there's an option to have the buttons mirrored if the player wants to use that. The part that took the longest time, hands down, was building the second level in the game. Not by using the editor and making it look nice with objects and where to place enemies, but by adding another level, I sure found tons of smaller bugs and things that wasn't working. For example, the saw. It had its hitbox way off, and it was also way too big to be able to pass without taking any damage. The going from one level to another one with ads took some time to solve. Showing an ad after the level is completed worked fine, and also going from one level to the next worked as intended. However, when I put those two functions together, it sure crashed. It took some time to solve, but it works fine now, and that's great. Many bugs, such as the key going out of screen when picked up, particles that was active on only a part of the level, and making sure the audio got restarted after the ad was displayed. Those were just some of the smaller bugs that I had to fix. Even though it feels like it never ends with things that needs to be fixed, I'm getting closer to release. Soon I can make new levels without having to add or fix any features in the game, and by then the level creation will go much faster. I also made some changes in the editor so that I can see all tiers at the same time, which, thinking about it now, I don't know why I didn't implement it from the start. It's way easier to place things now and also be able to see where everything else is placed at the same time. Then, just before I let people try the updated version with all the new things added and also the bug fixes, something happened. The FPS dropped a lot. Looking at it and trying to figure out what's caused it, sadly there is no quick fix here. I need to continue to work on this and make it better. I did add some checks for drawing objects or lights that were outside what the player can see, and it did improve the FPS. But there is much more that needs to be solved. It is not unplayable, just a slight FPS drop, but it needs to be solved before the release. And lastly, I will post a link in the video description to the app on the Google Play for you guys to try. This is the beta/alpha release and will be updated with the feedback I receive, and I will also add the rest of the game along the way. I encourage you all to try it and give some feedback if you want to. Take into account that this is not a finished and polished game like it should be, so expect some bugs and some things won't work properly. I'm very curious what you guys think. That is all I had for this video, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more updates before the release. Until then, have a great day, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye.